Kei ngā waiwai kai kapua, kei ngā waiwai kai pakiaka rarau mai ki te hui. Ko mihi ngā rangi tēnei, mihi atu nei kia koutou katoa. Welcome to the Hui, Māori current affairs for all New Zealanders. E taro ake nei. Whakahokia te reo ki te mata o te whenua. Debbie Ngārewa-Paka discusses the call to restore the original place names of Aotearoa.
The reality is, whether they like it or not, change is happening.
Tough times in Tāmaki Makaurau. We check out how Māori businesses are faring during lockdown.
I'm stressed, I'm anxious.
When you've got 120 plus staff, it's a lot of responsibility that you take on. Sometimes I ponder about, being in business for such a long time, is it time to give up?
And Te Newshub dad, Shay Milne, launches his own mixtape for Mahuru Māori.
These are just combinations of some new and some old stuff.
Tahuti mai rā. The extended lockdown in Tāmaki Makaurau has seen some Māori kai businesses taken to the brink. Despite the resilience they've shown during the 2020 lockdowns, the Delta variant has delivered a cruel blow and created a new set of challenges. They're asking for greater targeted support to ensure they can open up shop again. E kōrero a Rawani Pereira ki ētahi o rātou.
When you drive past your stores and you see them shut up like that for so long, how do you feel when you see that?
Well, apart from seeing the amount of dollars that I'm not making, you just wonder, how long could it possibly be?
The Toby's seafood chain of fish and chip stores are a whānau favourite around Tāmaki Makaurau, but they've been off the menu since the level 4 lockdown almost 5 weeks ago.
As much as it disheartens me, you've got to think quite positive, right? Because if you let it get down, it can be, take quite a toll on yourself.
The halt in trade gives owner Patrick Tobin time to reflect on the only livelihood he's ever known.
Sometimes I ponder about, being in business for such a long time, is it time to give up? When you've got 120 plus staff, it's a lot of responsibility that you take on.
Like Patrick, Renee Coulter's restaurant, Coco's Cantina, weathered last year's lockdown, but this time around is a lot harder.
I'm stressed, I'm anxious, but I'm also feeling optimistic. That makes sense. Can you be all of those things? You have to be everything at the moment. You have to think, if this goes on and on and on, how much debt you take, and then how long is it going to take you to pay all of that back? And if you're in an industry like hospitality where the margins aren't great, then you have to start doing the maths on what's going to make sense.
Both food outlets have taken the wage subsidies and resurgence support payments.
The resurgence, you have to have it. It just pays the basic. Wage subsidy, again, that just pays the basic. But we're all topping up wage subsidy.
Renee says it's time to tailor the subsidy to a business's particular needs.
I would like to see wage subsidy become a flexible tool based on your comparative turnover and how your business is actually faring and what industry you are and how many restrictions are on you, rather than it just be a level 1, level 2, level 3 kind of thing.
2 weeks ago, Toby started doing online orders of fresh kai moana, but it's only operating at 20% of normal trade.
We offered an online, non-contact, same-day delivery service. And I tell you what, that's the best thing we ever done. So we're able to service, our people out South Auckland and give them the opportunity to get a product delivered to their door. And if that was one person less that had to stand in the queue at a supermarket, that made us feel good. If the question is, are we making any money? No, all we're doing is, offering a service.
But it's important for you to be in your community right now.
Yeah, definitely, because, what goes around comes around, So if we can offer, a service today, while we're in level 4, it's reciprocal, from our clients when we open in level 3.
Cheers, man. Thanks, boss. Have a good one. You too.
In 2020, Coco's Cantina reopened for takeaway meals at level 3. But this time, with the Delta variant, they're playing it safe and won't be cashing in when the looser restrictions come in.
The realities are when people love their takeaway, especially when they haven't had it for 5 weeks. And so as soon as you put any system under pressure, cracks will appear. And so we actually have changed what we were going to do for level 3. We're doing dinner kits because we see that as a safer way to really maintain the distance and the rules around Delta 2.
Yeah, you're taking those sort of extra precautions and financially as well. Can you tell me about that belt tightening that you've been doing?
Before lockdown, we were a 7-day operation. We only did nights, but we were 7 days. And then after the last lockdowns, we came back at 4. And then as we saw that things were pretty good, we went to 5, but we never stretched right back to 7. So that meant that we could kind of keep our team a bit leaner. It meant that we didn't have as bigger monthlies and weeklies supplier invoices because we just were that little bit tighter. We changed our menu and tightened things up. It didn't make it quite as broad. And so we've been walking that line of trying to work out how can we get the balance right.
Have you also found that a whānau this time around are a lot more price conscious as well?
Definitely. With a lot of people, there isn't a lot of surplus income in there to splurge out on. And that's one good thing, I like about, whole fish and shellfish. It's a product that you can get that can feed a family. And so you get a whole kahawai or a whole mullet. Not only are you eating the fillets, you can eat the heads and the frames too. So, so you get a good return out of a small outlay. So being price effective is important for us.
As businesses and employers have had to be adaptable, they're asking the government to be more flexible to meet their changing needs.
We can't make wage subsidies or rules around tax or the resurgence package, any of those things can't be blunt instruments. Just making hard and fast rules, this is what we did last time, so this is what we're going to do this time, isn't necessarily going to help us when we don't know what to expect and how long these might continue.
So something that's more specifically targeted to Tamaki Makaurau would be more helpful for you?
I think so. Tamaki does need some extra wraparound support.
Do you think that Tamaki businesses should be given extra targeted funding because of the lengthier lockdown?
Oh, look, we've got the highest Pacifica and Māori population. We're the biggest city in Aotearoa. We're the start of where everything begins. So, targeted funding, definitely needs to come to Tamaki.
We're a small country. We're only 5 million people. Whatever help Tamaki can be given is actually good for everybody.
Nā Rawani Pereira, tērā pūrowo. Is it time to restore our Māori place names? I speak to Pāti Māori co-leader Deb Ngārewa-Paka next. Ko te reo te Māori o te mana Māori. Te Pāti Māori has launched a petition to make the name Aotearoa official and reinstate the Māori names of all towns, cities and places by 2026. I kōrero au ki te kaiarahi takirua o te Pāti kia Deb Ngārewa-Peka. Well, let's talk about the policy the Māori Party released last week. 2026, what might that look like if we were to return our place names to their original names?
Well, I think the first thing is that it would look like a nation that's moving more towards living te tiriti and being a te tiriti-centric, united country. A lot of our kaimahi around us are under 30. And look, a lot of the kōrero and the wānanga that we have is driven often by our rangatahi who are confronting some of the biggest challenges, that we've ever known: climate change, social justice, housing issues, and pandemics. And so what 2026 will look like is that we have had huge discussions about what this place name is, what it was about, what the ahu and the wairua connected to this place was. That then becomes our nation's narrative, our curriculum. That then becomes less debated because people are shocked that there was a culture here before Abel Tasman or James, whatever his name, Cook. So those are, for my mind, this is actually the party pushing forward, taking on the responsibilities that we saw in 1972 with Ngā Tamatoa, 1986 with Kai Wakapumo Te Reo, and making sure we don't rest on our laurels, that we continuously push towards that balance.
Yeah, what kind of support have you had on the political spectrum, and what do you think the challenges will be?
The biggest politics of this is the calling of the ground, the people power. The politics behind the scenes are, if we were to silence the extremes, that they've got to play to who they serve. I was really heartened to hear the Prime Minister say, hey, look, we need to acknowledge this. I also note, though, this is the government that said, hey, we're not going to have matariki. We have matariki. We're not going to have a Māori-specific targeted housing. Well, we actually have a Māori targeted housing. We're not going to have a Māori health authority. Well, actually, we have. And there's been lots of debate around here Puapua and other kōrero. So I think, everyone's got to play to their audience, but the reality is, whether they like it or not, change is happening. It's whether they like it or not, change is happening. And for Māori, we have 70% of our population are under 40, 20% are under 20 years old. It's going to happen. What's been really surprising is that we've had huge support from our own, but there's been huge international interest in the discussion as well, which is, really surprising.
Are there a couple of names that you will be looking forward to restoring to their original names?
Yeah, that's a really good kōrero. I mean, I think most of our names here that we have, like we've got Stratford. We would go back to Whakaurangi. We've got Inglewood, which was Kohanga Moa. We've got New Plymouth, which is Ngāmotu. And even inside of ourselves, there's also other subsets of the kōrero, which depend on which tūpuna. But definitely, these names here, we've got a tower in the middle of Taranaki that has Shakespeare coming out of it, and he's never been to Aotearoa, not that I know of. So, it would be, and this is an area where our tino koia, Rua Putahanga, healed. She went to a wānanga, she had a broken heart, she cried. There's wai there that heals. She was a matikete. And so this is about restoring our well-being.
I ran a very unscientific Twitter poll where I reached over a few thousand, and it was basically 76% yes to changing the name to Aotearoa, something like 25% both names, and a very small, less than 10% a no. So that's Twitter. What do you need for the big one to acknowledge that Aotearoa is also the name of our nation? How many names do you need, and then what do you need to change the law?
Yeah, I think so. To be really honest, we went out and did this. We thought, okay, well, we knew in 1972 there was 30,000 that got about the change, and can you imagine how they did that? Because I don't even know if they had fax machines then. So from our mind, we sort of thought, oh well, let's go really high, and we know in 1972 it was 30,000, and to be honest, when we got 30,000 within, I think 24 hours, we were like, what the heck? So I think we're just not going to put a lid on it. We're actually going to continue the to get the support that we can. And then what we want to do is, again, deliver it, through the steps of Parliament, use all the mechanisms we have to as MPs. But also, I think, more importantly, is when something's wanted from the ground up, that the movement of activism has always been really pivotal in the preserving of our reo and the extending of our reo.
E whātekau mā ono ngā tau nei, I whakanui tātou I te wiki o te reo Māori. Ki a koe, ko wai te tihi o ngā tino whetu?
Kia ora. Wa tuatahi ngā mihi kei a koe e te tuahine mō tō pauritanga. Ka nui ngā whetu I te reo Māori, engari, ko tōku tino whetu kei Taranaki, Ruakiri Hon, shines a light for us. And he's one of the poor guys that's had to have me in my early stages of learning and tukuhua rangatira. He has this amazing patience and humility. And I think anyone that can have that level of mātauranga and be so focused on te reo o Taranaki and stay really humble and considerate in his manaaki as he teaches, ones like me, other the stars. He warms our hearts and he keeps the glow of te reo o Taranaki alive.
Tawa e hoa koe te tihi o oku whetu hoki. Hoi no, mihi atu ki a koe e Ruakiri. Lord released a pretty special album this week, and it produced a lot of debate, and what we started to hear about was real trauma. I guess, he whakaaro ai mō tērā? Is that something you're familiar with?
I have been watching the debate with interest, and I totally get that there is a responsibility with the reo, just as there's a responsibility to be ahika. So I am of the view that, we should celebrate and manaaki those who are learning, just as the responsibility on those who are tino matatau te reo need to maintain humility and tautoko those who are learning. Because I think wakamā can really get in the way of our understanding and our ability to kōrero, I wā katoa. So,
well, kia kaha te reo Māori, e mihi ana ki a koe tēnei pō I te tuakana, Debbie Ngāri Wapeka from Te Pāti Māori. Kia mau tonu mai rā, te tiro e hoa mā ka hui tātou anō, a koe nei. With so many beautiful waiata being released to celebrate Māori Language Week, lovers of reo Māori music have been spoilt for choice. And one artist is carving out a niche of his own. Te Newshub dad and Arataua director Shay Milne has added reo Māori rapper to his impressive CV. His debut mixtape Whai Kōrero was released earlier this month, utilising his oratory skills to create a unique take on Aotearoa hip-hop. Kaya D'Angelo Martin, tēnei pūrongo.
Kia ora e te whānau, nau mai ki Arataua, koe e tēnei ko taku wāhi mahi, e ri koa tai mātou i ngā waiata, i ngā mahi katoa, hoi no, nau mai, piki mai, ara mai.
Tuku ana o ku whakaro ki te ao. Kei noho au ka mataku, I have to say.
Hoki ko muri ki te noho moho o tuatahi. I au e tahi hopu oro i te kānga, ka noho au ka rikoa tei e tahi waiata i ringi kaori i a te whakaputa ki te ao. I noho noi ho, hei mea whakahairiko i ahau me tōku anō whānau, ne? Ala, ka tairawa mai nei ki tēnei noho whakamoho au, ai ki ahau ki taku hoaranga tira. Ana, koe nei te tahi waku whāinga. Kia kaua e mau tia tēnei noho ngā tahitanga o mātou. Ara, nā te mea kei a mātou te wā. E harai te mea he nui ngā aupehitanga o waho. E te kānapea kia whakaimi mai, kia whakaputa i etahi kaha ki tēnei whakaimi ngā waiata. Ana, whakaputaina ki te iwi Māori, ki reira tohe mai ai, ki reira whakamiharo mai ai, aua hoki e rangi.
Ko te tangi tēnei a tā mali, ka wara e tukuna kia kurangi a koe e te iwi tauri. Ngā whakaro.
Kei noho tātou ka whakaro, me noho te whai kōrero ki te maraea mahe nei, ki au, ko te whakairo i te kupu, te whai kōrero. Ki au, ko te whakaputa i o whakaro ki tētahi, tuhinga ki etahi pai, etahi pairewa pāpāho, he whai kōrero anō e rā. Ana, koe nei noho o ku whakaro kei te kia hau, kia tātou. Me mutu pēr tā tātou whakawhaiti o tātou whakaro ki te ki mo te marae nahe nei te whai kōrero, nā matahi, nā marua, e kia nāu, keia ia tāngata tōnā no whai kōrero. Ko tahi tau ahau e tuhi whakaro ana, me pērā pēr te kōrero. Nō reira, tairoa mai nei ki tēnei wā e whakatakotoria i ahau ngā kupu ki hei waiata, ko whakaimi mai au i ngā whakaro, mai ngā tau ko taha ake nei. Nā reira i ahua random ai te noho, e tahi o nei kaupapa.
Me pehera, e ngana ana ke kaua te on pōri e kuhu mai ki taku on koa me pehera.
Kamutu, ko ngā waiata penei me pehera he kōrero moku nei anō, mō oku anō wheako, mō ngā taimahatanga, e haere ana i roto i ahau, nā e whakapono anau, e haere ana i roto i a tāua te tāne Māori. Kia mōhio, koe, koutou tātou, e haere te mea noho takitahi ana tāua i roto i tērā taimahatanga, kei roto e rā whakaro pōuri i roto i a tātou katoa, ana koe nei noho ahau i te wai tuhi au i a me pehea rā, i te ahua pōuri ngā whakaro, nā reire ki me pehea rā. E ngana ana ke kaua te au pōuri e kuhu mai ki taku o koa.
Define your style of rap, because listening to some of the waiata or listening to that mixtape, there's a specific style.
I just do what I think is cool. And so I'm my own biggest fan. And that sounds quite whakahihi, but I'm listening to it, yeah, that sounds cool. And then whakatakotoria. Me mōhio ke tātou, ko tātou anō o tātou ake rangatira, ko tātou anō o tātou ake kei whakahaere, kei a tātou anō tō tātou ake mana. And the more we can do that, and the more that we can whakaputa, waiata, raps, pa, whatever it may be, with that in mind, the better it is, I reckon. one of the reasons why, I needed to get it out quickly is because all of these kura kaupapa kids that are coming out with like the meanest reo, they're gonna bring out their waiata, and then old Matua Shea's gonna be kicked to the back benches, so I needed to bring it up before they did. Koe nei noho te mea tuatahi, going to mea tuatahi.
And how long did that take, the whole process to compile these waiata and put it into a mixtape?
No, in terms of the whole recording process, though, it wasn't that hard, to be fair. I recorded it all in our spare room, and I don't know, however long lockdown was for outside of Auckland, so 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks from go to woe. But in terms of the length, like I said, I've been loosely writing kupu for ages. So, these are just combinations of some new and some old stuff. And sometimes ka rongo ahau I te rangi, I'll hear a beat or whatever. I'll be like, yo, this is the jam here. I'm going to talk about this. And sometimes, ko ro e pupuri ana te tahi momo wairua I roto I ngā kupu. So I've been trying to find rangi that fit to that wairua. To be fair, I was actually quite surprised at how easy it was. We've released waiata with to Newshub and stuff like that, and we've had to go through a big process. I just wanted to see what it was like just by someone by themselves, and to see how you could do it. And I would recommend more and more of our rangatahi, more and more of our whānau. It's pretty easy. Nō reira, koe nei au e ki nei, he nui ngā huarahi, e putai te whai kōrero ki te whaiau ki tō marama, anei te tahi tūahuranga. E āhei ei tātou, ki te whai kōrero, ki te whakairo I te kupu, ki te mahi I ngā mahi a ngā mātua a ngā tupuna. Mawai e taurima.
Ko hekina te hui e hoa mā, nō reira hei whakamānua māhuru Māori, nei te waiata rangatira nā Ria Hall. No horo mai rā.
Na papa ma hora hora ko te ringa kai aponoa ka whai kia utua ka waiata arahina te tangata wai homana Puta ai te tangata ka waiata
is made with support from New Zealand On Air.